Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
In 1997, at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, Professor Hans Rosling began teaching a course on global health and development to undergraduate students. He wanted to get a baseline knowledge for what his top-ranked students knew at the outset of the course. Over the years, he asked a number of questions to gauge their knowledge, and I'll ask 3 of them here to you now. So I want you to just think about what you believe the correct answer is in your head. Question 1. How many of the world's 1-year-old children today have been vaccinated against some disease, such as measles? Is it 25%, 55%, or 85%? Have your guess? The answer is 85%. Yeah. Question 2. Over the last 20 years, what has happened to the proportion of the world population living in extreme poverty? Has it almost doubled, remained the same, or been cut in half? The answer? It's more than cut in half. Question 3. In all low-income countries across the world today, how many girls finish primary school? Is it 25%, 45%, or 65%? The answer is 65%. So how did you do? Because over time, Hans noticed that his students not only got each question wrong, they were shockingly wrong across the board. In many cases, only 7% of those he asked chose the right answer. That means his students performed even worse than random selection, and he proved it. He asked those same questions to chimpanzees, who voted by choosing a banana with the corresponding answers. Each and every time, the chimpanzees performed better than the most well-educated young adults at one of Sweden's top universities. Hans then began asking these questions to the Swedish public, the US public, world leaders, even media outlets covering these exact topics. Still, no group got even close to answering correctly. He summarized his findings by saying, "Everyone seems to get the world devastatingly wrong. Not only devastatingly wrong, but systematically wrong." In each case, people likely chose the most pessimistic answer, the one attached to very old worldviews or confirming a belief that the world is generally getting worse. And who can blame us? If you read or watch the news every day, you'd think war is widespread, people are commonly violent, and that humanity as a whole is regressing. But I have a theory about this. A news event, by its very nature, is something that is not normal. So the homicide in that neighborhood or the disease outbreak in that country is only making the news because it is not an everyday occurrence. But what we do as humans, especially educated humans, is falsely equate news with reality. That's why so many of us are still nervous that our planes will crash. I'm certainly guilty of this. Even when the data tells us that driving to the airport is more dangerous than flying in the plane. We have to remember that the counterintuitive notion is true. Everyday acts of genuine kindness and general improvement are the norm, not the outlier. And these mindsets have real-world outcomes. In the late 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman set out on a series of experiments that would change the entire field of psychology. Seligman worked with dogs in a carefully controlled setting. One group learned that they could stop a mild electric shock by taking a specific action. They discovered that what they did made a difference. A second group experienced the very same shocks, but this time, nothing they did could stop them. No matter how hard they tried, they had no control over the outcome. Then the experiment changed. Every dog was placed in a new enclosure. This time, escape was easy. A low barrier separated the dogs from a safe area. One small jump, and they would be free. The dogs that had learned their actions mattered quickly jumped to safety. But many of the dogs that had learned they had no control didn't even try. They lay down and endured the shocks, even though freedom was right in front of them. They had not lost the strength to jump. They had lost something far more powerful. They had lost the belief that jumping would matter. Seligman called this learned helplessness. It became one of the most influential ideas in psychology because it revealed a profound truth about the human mind. Our lives are shaped not only by what happens to us, but by the meaning we make of what happens to us. After enough disappointments, failures, and fears, it's all too easy to begin telling ourselves a certain negative story. I've certainly felt this way, most recently with career hurdles and a heartbreak dragged out for years. But I believe it's also one of the great truths about being human. We all live by stories. The question isn't whether we're telling ourselves one. The question is whether it's a story that leaves us stuck where we are or one that gives us the courage to jump. Professor Rosling argued that if people believe that nothing ever gets better, then nothing actually will. Because changing our worldview changes the world. When I gave my summer sermon here last year, I lifted a quote from President Obama's 2004 Democratic National Convention speech. He spoke right here in Boston that year, and I'm going to lift a different passage from that same keynote address again, but only because it's one of the greatest speeches of all time. He said, "I'm not talking about blind optimism here. The almost willful ignorance that thinks unemployment will go away if we just don't think about it, or the healthcare crisis will solve itself if we just ignore it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something more substantial. It's the hope of slaves sitting around a fire singing freedom songs. The hope of immigrants setting out for distant shores. The hope of a young naval lieutenant bravely patrolling the Mekong Delta. The hope of a mill worker's son who dares to defy the odds. The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him too." Barack is certainly a brilliant messenger of hope. But in many ways, I believe agency is the more powerful force at play here. We always have the agency to rewrite our stories, to imagine new possibilities that are not yet real, but contain the seeds of our success. Because the stories we tell ourselves truly impact the world around us. It reminds me of what Reverend Small told us last week through the brilliant wisdom of psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. One of the more widespread ways in which I see people fall victim to learned helplessness is with climate change. We all know the dire warning. If humanity doesn't curb greenhouse gas emissions, then humanity itself could cease to exist. I hear it expressed by people who constantly read the news and friends of mine who use it as a justification to not have children or lose hope in any idea of a prosperous future. But you know where these doom and gloom feelings are minimal? In the people actually building new solutions. I see it every day in my work in clean energy, because our industry knows that over 90% of new power generation last year in the United States came from renewable sources. And in the European Union, wind and solar generated more electricity than fossil fuels for the first time ever in 2025. We still have a long way to go, but we're making real progress. My own doubts and worries have morphed into excitement and optimism about the potential of geothermal and fusion energy, sources that can make a dramatic impact on global decarbonization if new technology makes them more powerful and affordable than fossil fuels. In the end, the old saying rings true. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's a lesson we can even take with us here to church. Our congregation is going through profound changes right now. We're welcoming a fantastic new transitional minister and laying the groundwork for a more permanent, settled minister to follow. But if some of us are mired in thoughts that our best days are behind us, then we will succumb to such a tragedy. The real power we hold is in telling ourselves that our best days are yet to come. Because if we imagine a better future, then the next step is the courage to go build it. If we want to live better lives in a better world, then we have to tell ourselves better stories. Every now and then, I think back to one of my high school music teachers who spoke to a group of us students right before our graduation. He had everyone do this little interactive exercise that I'm going to ask you all here in the sanctuary and on Zoom to join me in doing now if you are so willing and able. Okay, raise your hand as high as you can. Like really get it up there. Is it as high as it can go? Great. Now raise it just a little bit higher. I see those extensions there. See? That's the difference between what we think we can achieve and what we truly can. If we tell ourselves to reach higher, then we actually will. Amen. While venturing forth into new chapters, remember that you hold the pen and possess this most powerful of human abilities, to redefine what is possible by rewriting your own story, our story, and the collective story of civilization. It's only ever as far as your own fingertips. Love is the spirit of this congregation. May love hold us all until we meet again. Let us keep this faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Amen.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.